Hello and welcome. We are about to read Document A. Let's look at the source real quick. Document A is by Andrew Jackson. Cool, we know who it's from now. And it is Andrew Jackson's State of the Union speech. The State of the Union is a speech required by the Constitution, and it requires the president to give an update as to what's happening to the country, what's happening to the Union, right? The United States, what's happening to the Union, what's going on, what's the state of the Union. And he gave this speech on December 30th, 1830. Cool. We know who, we know why, we know when. Let's get into this, y'all. So this is President Andrew Jackson's words. And of course, he is talking about Indian removal, removing Native Americans from their homes. So let's take a look at what sort of language he uses when describing Native Americans, when discussing their removal. Let's look at his words and his rhetoric. Andrew Jackson says, "It gives me great pleasure to announce to Congress that the government's benevolent policy of Indian removal has almost been achieved." Where have you heard this word benevolent? If you are part of the Christian religion, you've probably heard it a lot because in Christianity, that's usually a word they use to describe their God. And benevolent here means kind. So right away, Jackson is saying that we are doing a good thing. We are doing a kind thing by forcing Native Americans out of their home. Interesting. Most of us would not consider that to be a kind thing, right? To force people physically from their homes. Most of us would agree that's not a kind thing to do. But for some reason, he is saying that it is kind. Let's keep going. "We have wept over the fate of the natives of this country." Oh, so he's saying we have cried over what has happened to natives in this country. That's very interesting because America has a very tumultuous relationship with natives. And I don't think any historians would agree that people like President Jackson were legitimately worried about what would happen to natives, especially because he is forcing them from their homes. So let's see what else he has to say. "As one by one, many tribes have disappeared from earth." He is right. He's correct, right? Over 90% of Native Americans were killed when Europeans came over to the Americas from Europe. However, we must accept this the way we accept when an older generation dies and makes room for the younger. So Andrew Jackson's kind of saying, they're dying, but we're here, so we're gonna take up the space. "We would not want to see this continent restored to the condition in which our forefathers found it." He's making it seem like when Europeans came to the Americas that it was a bad place, that he's making it seem that it was not a good continent when there was nothing bad about it when Europeans came over. In fact, Europeans came over and they loved it because they wanted to take the land, right? So it's very interesting that he's saying these things that, again, a lot of historians would simply consider not true. What a good man would prefer a country covered with forests and occupied by a few thousand savages to our great republic, studied with cities and prosperous farms, decorated with art and industry, occupied by more than 12 million happy people, and filled with all the blessings of liberty, civilization, and religion. Interesting. He's using very interesting words here. He's also using a very disgusting derogatory term to talk about Native Americans. He uses this word savages, and this is a very mean and disrespectful way of talking about Native Americans because it's saying that you are a monster, you're an animal if you're not like us. If you're a native and you don't wear Western European clothing like us, then you're an animal. If you don't speak English like us, you're a monster, you're an animal, you're a savage. That's the type of rhetoric he's using here. And he's saying, who would prefer a country with forest, which, I mean, count me in, right? I love a forest. He's saying, who would prefer a country with forests and savages to our big cities today? He's saying that it was a bad place when Europeans were not here. See how a lot of these ideas are rooted in racist ideas that if you are not a white civilized European person, then you're a monster, you're a savage. And that's blatant racism right there. It's pretty cut and dry. Let's see what else he says. He says, the United States will pay to send the natives to a land where they may live longer and possibly survive as a people. So again, he's using words that you would use. He's kind of saying, we're doing them a favor. We're helping them survive. We're doing this for them. When in reality, the natives are like, we don't want this. We want to be in our native land. We don't want to go anywhere. Can it be cruel when this government offers to purchase the Indian's land, give him new and extensive territory, pay the expense of his removal, and support him for the first year of his home? See, Andrew Jackson, again, is using words that are saying, oh, we're doing this for them. We're taking care of Native Americans. We're doing this for them. When in reality, they are being ripped from their native homelands that they have lived there. Their people have lived there for thousands of years, and they are being ripped from there, forced to move under terrible, terrible conditions, which result in the death of many natives. And then they're forced to live in this small area of Oklahoma, which then we'll find out later, natives are actually pushed from that area once America finds oil in Oklahoma. So this is a very interesting painting that Andrew Jackson is putting up here. He says, how many thousands of our own people would gladly embrace the opportunity of moving west under such conditions? He's making it sound like they're rolling out the red carpet for Native Americans, right? When in reality, natives were forced to walk under the dead of winter, leaving behind their dead babies and their dead grandparents on the road because the American soldiers were like, nope, you got to keep walking. You can't take the people who just died with you. You got to keep walking. And that, of course, is the Trail of Tears, which I'm talking about. Let's look at the last paragraph. The policy of the government towards the red man is generous. Again, this is another derogatory term for a Native American. Derogatory term for natives. By referring to them as a red man or red people, that is a derogatory, disrespectful term. He says the policy of the government towards the red man is generous. We're being so generous with them. The Indian is unwilling to follow the laws of the states and mingle with the population. So here, this is the weird part. Andrew Jackson is saying that Native Americans don't want to follow the laws of the state. Girl, have you heard of Worcester v. Georgia, where the natives literally followed all the steps of American government in order to reach the Supreme Court and discuss their case and actually end up winning? How is that unwilling to follow the laws of the states? Okay, Andrew Jackson. Okay. Anyway, to save him from utter annihilation, the government kindly offers him a new home and proposes to pay the whole expense of his removal and settlement. So look at these words that Jackson is using to describe the horrific thing that America did to Native Americans. We'll talk a little bit more, but hopefully this video helped you answer some of these questions in your HyperDoc. All right, let's get to it, y'all. Good luck out there.